The sound begins not as a roar, but as a whisper. It is the sound of a single pebble skittering down a rock face 1,000 feet up. A dry, sandy hiss that is gone before it registers. But the clan knows it. In the gloom of the deep cavern, heads lift from their work. Kale, his knuckles raw from striking flint, freezes with his hammer stone held aloft. The old woman, Dilara, places a steadying hand on a child's shoulder. Her face a mask of weary stone. They are a people defined by listening. The shallow cave, a mere scar in the belly of the canyon wall, is both sanctuary and tomb, and the only god they know is gravity. Then comes the second sound, a grating, grinding complaint from the bones of the earth itself. It is the true beginning. Outside, a shadow detaches from the cliff face. Not one, but dozens. The vast colony of territorial pterosaur nests that owns the sky above the canyon stirs. They're clumsy. Claws scrambling on the high ledges is the trigger. Their scrabbles, their landings, their sheer weight on the weathered precipice, constantly sends this death down upon the canyon floor. The early humans call them sky minus shakers, eye throat minus staring screech echoes, sharp and cruel. As one of the great pterosaur beasts launches into the air, its leathery wings catching the wind, below it, a section of the cliff peels away like sun minus dried hide. The whisper becomes a roar. The roar becomes a thunder that consumes the world. Kale flattens himself against the cave floor as the entrance whites out with a storm of dust and dropped shrapnel. The ground trembles. A deep, violent shudder that works its way through his bones. A reminder that the very ground they live on is not their own. It belongs to the dinosaurs, and to the endless, indifferent passage of time that is grinding it to dust. When the last echo of the rockfall fades, a ringing silence remains. Dust motes dance in the sliver of light that penetrates the cavern. The air is thick with the smell of shattered stone. This is the rhythm of their existence in the scar. A sheer minus wall prison carved by a river long since vanished. The Homo habilis clan is trapped. To the east, the canyon narrows to a crack a man could not squeeze through. To the west, it opens into a floodplain ruled by raptor packs in the constant shadow of larger carnivores. But here, in the middle, the only immediate threat is the sky itself. Their advanced lithic technology, the sharp minus-edged flakes and choppers Kale so painstakingly crafts, is useless against a falling mountain. Their intelligence, the spark that separates them from the beasts, serves only to deepen their understanding of their own helplessness. This narrow band of existence is a chapter of hominid history being written in stone and fear, and it threatens to be their last. Dilara rises, her joints cracking, and peers out. The sunlit killing floor is newly decorated with shattered rock, some boulders larger than any member of the clan. There is no sign of the 3 hunters who left at dawn, only silence. The silence that follows the loss of the hunters is heavier than any stone. Days bleed into one another, measured by the shrinking water skins and the growing hollowness in the children's eyes. Thirst becomes a constant, rasping presence in the back of every throat. It is this, more than the ever minus present threat from the sky, that finally forces Kale's hand. He must go to the bitter sea. A treacherous journey halfway to the western mouth of the canyon, where a trickle of brackish water leaks from the rock. The hunters knew the path, a winding route that used every overhang and fissure for cover. Kale, the shaper of stone, the man whose world is usually measured in the span of his own arms, now has to read the language of the entire canyon. He moves with a low, desperate crouch, his eyes scanning the cliffs above as much as the path ahead. Every gust of wind sounds like the precursor to a rockfall. Every distant cry sounds like a hungry predator. He finds the steep block. A living mountain of bone and horn stands between him and the water. It is a gargantuan Ankylosaurus, its low Midas slung body wider than 3 men lying end to end. The beast is drinking. Its broad, keratinous beak dipping methodically into the small pool. Kale freezes behind a rock outcropping, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs. The creature is a force of nature, its back a mosaic of fused bony plates. its tail ending in a club of solid bone that could shatter a predator's leg with a single, lazy swing. It is the epitome of defiance, an organism that solved the problem of being prey by becoming a fortress. As Kale watches, a squabbly erupts on the cliffs far above. The familiar, hated screeches of the pteranodon nests echo down the canyon wall. He shrinks back, instinctively looking for deeper cover. The whispers begin. The rock slide is catastrophic. A whole ledge gives way, unleashing an avalanche of stone and debris directly over the bitter sea. Kale presses himself into a crack in the rock, convinced his end has come. The thunder is deafening, the air choked with pulverized rock. But the death that rains from the sky does not find the Ankylosaurus. Boulders that would obliterate a man strike the creature's armored back and simply break. They shatter into fragments. Glancing off, the intricate shield of fused osteoderm is with a percussive boom. Like hammers striking an anvil of impossible density, the beast barely flinches. It plants its stubby legs, hunkers down, and lets the storm of stone break over it. It is an island of absolute certainty in a collapsing world. When the last rock has fallen, the creature gives a low grunt, shakes the dust from its back, and calmly resumes drinking as if merely shrugging off a brief, irritating rain shower. In that moment, Kale sees not a beast, but a solution. The terror in his chest is replaced by a blinding flash of insight, a spark of cognitive fire that leaps across the chasm between instinct and invention. His gaze darts from the creature's impenetrable back, to the scattered wood from a petrified tree nearby, to the thick, discarded hides of a kill the clan had dragged in weeks ago. He sees the layers. He sees the strength. He sees the shape. The pteranodon built their nests on the cliffs. His people built their lives in the shadow of the consequences. But the Ankylos, or as carries its own cliff, its own cave, on its back. It does not hide from the sky. It defies it. A new form of primitive technology is born in his mind. Not a tool for cutting or scraping, but a tool for standing firm. He runs, not from the sky minus shakers, but toward his people, the blueprint of the unbroken mountain burning behind his eyes. Cal returns to the cave not with water, but with a fire in his eyes. He is gone. His lips crack, but he moves with a purpose that electrifies the suffocating gloom. He throws down his carrying sack and seizes a burnt stick. On the dusty floor of the cave, he draws. His hands move with frantic precision, scratching the image of the great armored beast. Its back a shield of plates. He points to the drawing, then points to the ceiling of the cave, the source of their doom. He mans the falling rocks. The thunder, then strikes his chest with his fist. An act of defiance. The clan stares, their faces a mixture of confusion and fear. This is the madness of thirst. Some of them think, but Ilara, the old woman, sees the logic flickering behind the wildness. She sees the ghost of an idea. The work begins. It is an act of collective, desperate faith. They drag the petrified logs from a scree field, their weight immense, the wood hard as stone. Tail, with his master's hands, shows them how to chip and grind, not to make a sharp edge, but to flatten the surfaces. Others are sent to retrieve the thick, stiff hides from a week's mine assault triceratops gill. Risking the open for the precious material, they soak the hides in the last of their water, pounding them with smooth river stones to make them pliable. The entire community of these ancient humans is mobilized. The children gather sinew and vines. The adults perform the heavy labor, their movements synchronized by a shared, unspoken goal. They are no longer just hiding. They are building. They lay the heavy wood in a frame, stretching the wet hides over it. And then, using a slurry of mud and animal dung, they begin to cement flat, sharp minus-edge stones onto the surface, overlapping them like the scales of a reptile. They build 5 of these monstrous things, each one heavy enough to require for adults to lift. They are crude, ugly, and impossibly heavy. They are shields. They are hope. The day they leave is grey and still. The air is heavy with the promise of change. They stand at the mouth of the cave, looking out at the canyon floor. The journey is short, but it covers the deadliest ground, directly beneath the highest, most unstable cliffs where the pteranodon nests roost. They lift the shields. The weight is staggering, forming a stumbling, shoaled creature of their own. A human and Ankylosaurus, they move out into the light. The strongest take the lead in the flanks, their muscles screaming in protest. The young and old huddle in the center of the moving fortress. Their progress is agonizingly slow. High above, the sky miners shakers notice. A chorus of shriek scuds through the air. They are not hunters, but they are fiercely territorial. The clan's slow, deliberate march is an invasion. A shadow moves on the cliff face. The whisper begins. Tail, his knuckles white where he grips the wooden frame, screams the only command they have hold. The world collapses. The roar of the rock slide is absolute. From beneath their newly birthed shell, they hear the apocalypse. The sound is not the sharp crack of a single impact, but a deafening, continuous drumming. The sound of 1,000 giant fists hammering their fragile roof. The shields groan. The wood splinters, and dust rains through the gaps. The sheer percussive force travels through their arms and into their bones. They lock their legs, leaning into one another, becoming a single, living structure built of bone, sinew, and sheer will. It is a testament to the power of an idea, a physical manifestation of a single moment of observation that has changed the course of their hominid history. Then, as suddenly as it began, it is over. Sunlight, thick with dust, streams through cracks in their battered shields. They have not broken. They take another step, and then another. They emerge from the cloud of their own survival, leaving the scar and its vertical tyranny behind them, stepping out into a world that is wider and infinitely more dangerous. They did not conquer the canyon. They did not defeat the sky. They simply refused to die in the manner prescribed for them. In the long chronicle of prehistoric life, where survival was a matter of tooth, claw, and armor plating, this act was something new. It was the moment human ancestors weaponized reason against physics. The day a thought became a fortress. The shield they built was more than wood and stone. It was the physical birth of foresight, a tool crafted not for the present moment of the hunt, but for the terrifying possibilities of the future. This desperate gamble, born from witnessing one of the great dinosaurs, became the template for our species' unlikely ascent. We did not outminus fight the monsters of the ancient earth. We outminus thought them. We watched, we learned, and we turned the brutal mechanics of their world against them. Every wall we have ever built, every roof we have ever raised against the storm, has its foundation in the dust of that canyon floor, a silent echo of the day our ancestors first decided to carry their own cave on their backs, and in doing so, began to walk toward the throne of a world that was never meant to be theirs. Where the hammer of evolution fails, the mind of man builds a shield, but the open plain has its own kings, and they hunt by scent.